All opinions expressed on any program are those of the producer and or persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of DCTV. All producers and guests appearing on programs provide information and opinions based on information they consider to be reliable. DCTV does not affirm the completeness and accuracy. All DCTV members agree to adhere to DCTV's statement of compliance and are participants in a community medium forum where they're exercising their freedom of speech.
What? Oh my goodness, I didn't know I was on the air. Good evening. I'm your host, Karen Udis. Welcome to the series on the network of global corporate control. Thanks to DCTV, to Carmen Stanley, project director, to Maurice Jackson, studio director, and Cruchet Starnes, audio and teleprompter. Today's segment is live and is called Spirituality. I'm also going to speak about the United States military. Last week's segment was called Empathy. Empathy is the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing. This capacity is one of the ways that we can tell whether we are using our prefrontal godly brain. Could you stop scrolling? It's a little too bright for me. Oh my gosh, is this really your heart speaking to the people? This is what somebody wrote in the comments section on YouTube. This is fantastic. And it was in reply to something someone said. Could you please stop scrolling? I'm having difficulty reading the because it's too bright. Karen, bless her soul, she's, I really can't read it. It's too bright. She had a stroke, or she was attacked again. I'm always under attack. But the Coalition for the Rule of Law and this coalition is could please turn it down. It's still blinding me. Please turn it down. I can't see. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I'm really very glad to see you. And I realize that these technical difficulties are things which we can't explain them. But as I said in the earlier comment, I'm under attack all the time. As you have learned, we're all in this together. My prefrontal cortex is what you're listening to. We are created equal with, it's still too bright. We are created equal with the same basic brain hardware used by Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Moses, Lao Tzu, and all the other saints. They taught us about our inalienable, transcendent potential. Like them, we have all the right stuff built into our brain, simply waiting for a spark to ignite it. I want to tell you about a conversation on Twitter about our spirituality, where, sorry? Please roll roll it back because it's going forward now. Yeah. Where a person wanted, he's misusing our spirituality. And he's controlled opposition. And controlled opposition, they say some things that are true in order to confuse us. And he said that 98% of religion on earth is not good. I never said that. He also talked about Jesus and true Christians on earth. Gregg was trying to attack me by putting words in my mouth. Controlled opposition mixes some things that are true and then tries to confuse you by lies. And he twisted what I said about our spirituality in order to confuse us and attack me. This was a dangerous, insidious attack. And what Gregg said was, and you can see I've put links there. Yes, you're right, 98% of all religion on earth is not good. This is Gregg, who's trying to make it seem like I said that, and I never did. And what he said also was Jesus came from his Father, and his Father is love on earth. Yes, that's true. So he's mixing the things up. He's putting some things that are true and some things that are untrue, just to confuse us. Gregg, do not put words in my mouth. Shills do that. The status, in replying to Gregg, I said, why unleash religious warfare and invite divide and conquer? And I also said, on the 28th of November, replying to Gregg, humans are capable. Our Creator created humans that way. Please review what I'm saying in the last video in the DCTV series. I just tweeted the comments. This is to prevent us from putting this, and this is to prevent us from getting distracted from our agreed sequence to end corruption and our money first. And what Gregg wrote. I agree we need to fight the corruption and fix the corruption in the banking sector. After that, who is going to fix the greed and corruption at the corporate level? Do corporations adhere to Bible principles? No. Profits come first and foremost. And then he also wrote, Karen, on your graph, you show that this is all human rulership. The Bible states that humans are not capable of ruling themselves without adhering to Bible principles. Satan is the corrupter. It will look much better when Jesus takes the top position. Thanks, Gregg. Gregg is mislabeling a graphic. This graphic is showing the Black Nobility. It's this hierarchy that we're fighting. The World Monarch and the Crown Council of 11 and the Committee of 100 and the central banks and the corporations who claim that they run the world, but they don't. So who is we? At the head is our Creator, who created us with a godly brain. Our spirituality, we are spiritual. We're leaving this topic, our spirituality, until after we have cleared the world from the corrupt money system. This is necessary because the Black Nobility is confusing our spirituality to divide and conquer us. Gregg mixes some truth with dangerous lies. In this case, Gregg is trying to say that I think 98% of religion on earth is not good. I do not think that at all. Gregg is controlled opposition, trying to confuse us. This attack is very dangerous. Gregg and the Black Nobility are very clever at twisting things around. The Black Nobility attacks our spirituality, trying to divide and conquer us. When we use their tricks and when we see them clearly, they're desperate. I'm pre-recording 2 segments because of the holidays. In the rest of this segment, I'm going to tackle the attempt to nuke Charleston and fire a first strike against Russia on October 1, 2015. Do you think anyone in the military might remember that Major General Michael Carey, former commander of the 20th Air Force, and also former Vice Admiral Tim Giardina, were fired for refusing to nuke Charleston? Or that Heather Cole, commander of the Navy's Strategic Communications Wing 1, was arrested because she prevented a first nuclear strike against Russia. You can find this in the teleprompter on June 26, 2018, and there's a link showing what I'm talking about. Attempt to nuke South Carolina in 2013. Last year, I mentioned how the villains in this story tried to nuke Charleston, South Carolina on October 8, 2013. The day after I uploaded that segment on the internet, Patience Wright tweeted the link to a forgotten November 10, 2013 interview by Christopher Hudson that had 500,000 views. It was called Whistleblower: Secret Plot to Nuke Parts of the USA Exposed. We're going to watch this clip again.
To entrap people in hotels.
Wow. That was a huge bomb.
I have one that's even worse.
I'm listening.
Okay. A couple of weeks ago, I believe it was the 8th of October, there was supposed to be a nuclear bomb detonated on South Carolina. And 2 Army generals made sure that that bomb went off the coast, 600 miles off the coast, and detonated undersea. And those military officers were fired. And now, at this point, there are about 180 generals and brass that are being fired. And these are the people that are protecting the citizens of the United States.
And a good evening to you on this Friday night, and we start with a developing story, a shakeup at the highest levels of the U.S. military. A top general in charge of nuclear weapons fired, and this comes 48 hours after another top military commander was dismissed. ABC's chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz has been talking to her sources all day, has the very latest on what's happening right now. Martha.
Diane, these officers have some of the highest security clearances you can get and have been in charge of the nation's most sensitive nuclear arsenals. A stunning chain of events. Today, Michael Carey, the two-star general responsible for the nation's 3 intercontinental ballistic missile wings, fired from his command. The reason? Personal misbehavior on a military business trip. This comes just 48 hours after President Obama himself relieved the number 2 in command over the nation's nuclear arsenal over his suspected use of counterfeit poker chips. These follow an alarming string of general officers losing their jobs this year for inappropriate behavior, misconduct, or lack of leadership. 2 Marine Corps generals fired less than 2 weeks ago for not providing proper force protection in Afghanistan. An Army Brigadier General relieved of duty for adultery. An Army 2-star general fired for groping a civilian. And in March, a Navy 1-star removed for racially insensitive comments and abusive leadership. Last spring, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff was so concerned about all the high-profile cases, he sent a letter to Pentagon brass urging a recommitment to ethical leadership.
And that's why they're being removed.
Senator Lindsey Graham also threatened us and said that if we didn't support war against Syria, we were going to be nuked. Millions of people, especially in the U.S. military, have seen this clip. Yesterday, I asked Amazon, I'm sorry, I can't see what I asked, and there was a tweet about the attempt to fire nuclear missile on a first strike against Russia. Amazon prevented me from posting this again, but I saved it and show it to you now, and you'll see that in the teleprompter. The United States is in interregnum. Its constitution has been suspended. Its judges are they're not sitting in the right courts. They're not sitting in the Article 3 courts. And under Article 5 of the Constitution, the Congress extends a state of, the Congress has been extending a state of emergency and martial law behind, they're just hiding behind what the real situation is. Military personnel policies are suspended in order to fire Major General Michael Carey and Vice Admiral Tim Giardina. These patriots detonated a nuclear bomb in the ocean instead of on Charleston on October 7, 2013. And the villains, the traitors, arrested Heather Cole, commander of the Navy's Strategic Communications Wing, on, I think it was October 1st. She aborted a first nuclear strike against Russia during unprecedented dogfights between Russia and the United States in the Arctic, just hours before she was relieved of duty. And now let's talk about the National Guard. After I wrote to adjutants general of the 50 states, Frank Grass resigned as chair of the National Guard. As treasonous, corrupt brass in the military are exposed, they fall. And I had a question and answer session with the National Guard. Dear Adjutants General of the 50 states of the United States. I'm a lawyer and economist who has been given the job of Overseer Mandate Trustee to safeguard the world's monetary gold reserves. At the end of World War II, General Eisenhower and President Truman, together with the rest of the world's leaders, agreed to the U.S. monetary gold reserves in trust for 50 years to prevent another world war. And they created the World Bank and IMF to decide how to handle these monetary gold reserves. At the end of the period of sequestration, we now have the right, because there's a concept called the statute of limitations, which says that all claims are extinguished after 50 years. This means that there are no more valid claims over the world's gold and other wealth. The courts have no jurisdiction over these gold reserves and other precious metals and other priceless assets. The 188 ministers of finance and development on the Board of Governors of the World Bank and IMF have delegated the duty to speak on their behalf involving the global debt facility. And they've agreed that they will go on record in the case of any dissent. I have mailed out to all of the Washington embassies the minutes of the meeting on April 16, 2016, agreeing to a global currency reset. There have been no objections to these minutes. There is a network of global corporate control identified in Vitaly Gladfelder and Battiston. And you can read that article. That was in 2012. The Black Nobility has been with us for a very long time and has corrupted our governments, including the government of the United States. Sufficient people are aware of this corruption, and coalitions have formed to combat this corruption. A very accurate political science modeling tool from the Department of Defense has predicted with 90 to 95% accuracy that these coalitions are in effect and that there is a peaceful currency reset to prevent the Federal Reserve note from unilaterally taking U.S. military might with a crash of the unconstitutional Federal Reserve notes. The gold in the U.S. monetary gold reserves is going to be minted into U.S. dollars, and U.S. Treasury dollars are going to be issued in the interim. If Switzerland doesn't agree to release the Treasury dollars that Ronald Reagan printed, which are on deposit in the Union Bank of Switzerland, then the Bureau of Printing and Engraving in Texas is going to mint these Treasury dollars. I'm forwarding the mail, which I sent yesterday to Major General Linda Singh and the 50 governors of the U.S. The governors are all in agreement that the United States is in interregnum because the secret military government that was in effect in the United States is not legitimate. The Constitution of 1789 is going to be restored via an Article 5 convention. In the interim, I vote the 16% shares of the United States on the Board of Governors of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, and on the boards of executive directors of the World Bank and IMF. And then I signed that letter. Well, I've got time to speak extemporaneously. You'll hear in, I believe, 2 segments from today what it's like being the overseer mandate trustee and how I got to be that. It was a long process, and I had to rule out the corrupt people that were trying to steal the monetary gold reserves until I was left because of 2 qualities that I have. One is that I don't give up, and the other is that I'm honest. In one of the episodes, you can see that there's shares in a diamond company that the CIA issued to me. I have those shares in the safe deposit box. They thought they were going to bribe me. Yeah, I'm not taking that bribe. And I've said that this evidence that they were trying to bribe me is it's used against the network of global corporate control. So the mounting evidence has convinced a lot of people, and once you get through to a lot of people, that becomes reality. So we are in a different reality now, and it's these worlds are in conflict. And I'm going to tell you what it feels like to be the overseas mandate trustee. I think that's but we'll put that off till later. In the meantime, you can see all the letters that I've written. I've documented that all the governors, they haven't dissented. And there was certainly, when I wrote those things, there was certainly the opportunity to dissent, and all of the minutes of the World Bank and IMF Board of Governors I've written, because these people, the Board of Governors, they're liars, they're play actors. The corruption has taken away all of the real governments and real constitutions. And in the next segment, we're going to be talking about the governments, which are just, and there are enough people that understand that these are all lies. Now, one of the recent things that I've learned is that we transcend these terrible things because we're created to be godly. That's the way our mind works. Not everybody's mind works that way. That's true. But you can find out whose mind is working using the prefrontal cortex. And you can see that from the MRI imaging. So there's nowhere for these corrupt crooks to hide. And as I said, it's really a matter of time. You can also see in the comments section on YouTube how people are taking this. There's a lot of controlled opposition. The Black Nobility and their controlled opposition are trying to confuse you about our spirituality. When you understand how cleverly their agents twist things, the Black Nobility's tricks lose their effect. One of the reasons they are called Black Nobility is because of the terrible things that they try to do. As an example of the terrible things, you can see their failed attempts to start a nuclear war. You can take heart that we're able to counteract the Black Nobility. They're starting to realize that humanity is united and that the black nobility are losers. I'll give you other examples in the next 2 weeks.